So, if you don't know, here's the thing. I made another video, a last video about how much I hate the Toronto police. And it's true, I do hate them. I really do. But, I gotta give hate to our federal government, csis, the RCMP. Because look, here's the age-old question. What makes a police officer different from a security guard? Nothing. Police officers, they were born out of, the United Kingdom, British Empire. The police officers were first used on factory floors, right? They were trying to control labor, right? They were trying to control workers. Now, what is the difference between an RCMP or csis spy agent and a police officer? Well, outside the fact that they're both, both doing police work, just, on a different more secretive government clearance and security pass, right? Just think about all the different places that a Toronto police officer can go to or have access to. Think about all the different office spaces. csis and RCMP, they can get into these office buildings. They can position themselves close to these peoples in these positions and jobs. What do you think it is? Right? We don't hear about a lot of Toronto police corruption, even though there's dozens and dozens of articles every year. How much of it do we don't know? Some of the most heinous, disgusting crimes. How much of it do we do not know about? Right? And that's my issue. That's my main issue. With csis, they got caught, essentially, trying to traffic children to the Middle East. They were trying to prop up sex slavery, right? The RCMP, they were born out of, right? csis was born out of the RCMP. The RCMP was born out of the Royal Mounted Canadian Police. That's the difference, right? These motherfuckers were their buffalo symbol. You want to know why the RCMP used the symbol of the buffalo? Because the colonizers brought disease to the Aboriginal people of Canada, right? And not only that, they used the symbol of the buffalo because they hunted down their primary food source, right? The RCMP were always some fucking crackers. Some slave master neo-Nazi crackers. That's what they were. They always were that. So who are we joking, right? What are we trying to say here? Right? They robbed these people of their language. They put them in these boarding schools, right? They have a long history, right? Canada is entire history of destroying people of color. And the Chinese head tax, right? We had slavery. In fact, in the United States, it was actually Chinese people that were banned from America before the American slave trade took place. And as an effect, in Canada, we had the Canadian head tax, Chinese head tax, meaning if they came over here, they were lured into businesses, and then they were denied work. They couldn't go back home to their families because they had to pay debt that they would likely never pay off. Right? They had to start new families here in Canada, in poverty. Imagine that level of tragedy. That's the RCMP, right? And they have these security passes to get in these jobs and these offices. And when you go to protest, I see cops all the time. You don't think I spy these goofy ass people at the protest? I was looking at this sign. It said, "Fight fascism and racism." It's like, why the fuck do these people care? Right? I saw an article from The Breach. They were saying there was apparently some office called the Hate Crime Working Group. Right? These motherfuckers, they're basically saying people are terrorists. Outside of actual criminal charges being laid. And then the Toronto police gather this evidence, and then they fucking say these people are terrorists. Right? With no evidence. They just end up on a federal list from these secret group of prosecutors. Right? That's who the fuck these people are. Right? The Toronto police are, an agency that's going politically rogue. And the RCMP have been that way, right? You want to talk about sex abuse? There was a sex abuse case in British Columbia, I believe. And it was a csis officer, again, abusing one of their own csis officers. So this shit is probably rampant in the federal government too. And the reason that pisses me off is because it's like, look, you know, all this shit that's not being said about the police is never going to be said about the federal government, the RCMP and csis, because they have this technology. They have audits to completely hack and spy on people's phones. So this corruption is never going away. White supremacy is never going away, right? These people need to be overthrown or exposed. And if you're not hacking the Toronto police, what are you doing? The Toronto police's hacking abilities, right? They're not looking into a lot of AI concerns, a lot of cyber hacking concerns. Therefore, you should hack them. You should expose their crimes because they're not going to prison. They're not. The SIU is not charging these officers. Hack the Toronto police. It is your civil duty.